A former chemical engineer and intelligence agent specialising in counter-terrorist operations, Vivian Conley seemed like one of the most promising newcomers as a division agent. So what caused her to betray her government and not just join forces with a hostile faction, but become their leader? Vivian Conley possessed an impressive resume, much of which placed her quickly in sights of the SHD recruiters. As a chemical engineer, she had learned how to develop and design chemical manufacturing processes. Another valuable set of skills included her work as a counter-terrorism agent, where she incorporated military tactics, techniques, and strategy to neutralize terrorists and their organizations. However, not everyone was convinced that she was the right fit for the role of a division agent.
Tendencies for fixation and obsession. Well, that's exactly what we want in an agent. Someone who gets obsessed with a target and goes after them regardless of the collateral.
Or she will just commit to the mission. Fixation and obsession can be a good thing.
You just like her because she's a techie.
Hey, we need people who are willing to think outside of the box. And we need more people that can fix our shit when it breaks. She's resourceful.
And obsessive.
The program will guide her in the right direction and give her the right focus. She's smart, capable, and fucking brilliant.
We can't depend on continuous training for these people to qualify. We need to have a standard from the get-go. What if they're activated tomorrow? Would you be comfortable having Conley out there?
I would. No question.
All right. I'll put her on for the next phase.
During Vivian's psych evaluation, a number of concerns were highlighted in regards to her extreme obsessive behaviours, which could have the potential to cause a number of problems while out in the field. But like so many before her, she was pushed through regardless of the fears, and given the go-ahead to progress to the next stage of recruitment. Not long after the green poison outbreak, Conley was activated as a first wave agent, and deployed into Midtown Manhattan to assist the JTF in securing the quarantine zone. Shortly after her activation, the Joint Task Force was ordered to stop and move out of the area, leaving Conley and the other division agents to complete the assignment on their own. As the agents struggled with the seemingly impossible task, eventually a number of them were killed by the growing hostile presence, while others succumbed to the virus itself, and those who survived were forced to retreat.
Hey, Conley.
Keener? You're still alive?
Thanks to your turret.
Can you believe the JTF would turn on us like that?
I believe weak people will always make bad choices when they're scared.
And we'll have to pick up the slack.
You want some help?
Not on this one. You'll only get in my way.
Comes with the territory.
I'm gonna take care of this.
Fortunately for Conley, she was one of the few that managed to get away. However, sadly for her, she was about to find out that her own family had just become some of the latest victims of the dollar flu. Mad with grief, Conley needed someone to blame. Someone needed to pay for this incompetence and mishandling of the crisis. She decided to focus her anger solely on the government and the obedient JTF soldiers who blindly followed their orders. But eventually, even she would get caught up in the chaos, and found herself in the middle of a hot zone that resulted in her becoming trapped under a pile of rubble caused by an explosion from a nearby building.
We got a live one over here.
They look infected?
Nope. Might be JTF though.
Try again.
Riker?
Check the watch. She's division.
Not anymore.
Right. She's one of those. Red ring and all.
Hey, let's bring her in. Joe will want to talk to her.
Hey, don't try anything now. I'm just gonna take that little gun of yours.
Be my guest. Can't wait to see this Joe of yours.
While out on a foraging mission, a group of cleaners found Conley trapped and proceeded to take her back to their leader, Joe Ferro. Already flagged as rogue at this point, she was interested in seeing what Ferro had to say. Before long, she found herself among a group of ex-sanitation workers and contractors, and these guys were taking matters into their own hands. Just like herself, they too were feeling the pain of loss and abandonment after the JTF left them behind. And Conley understandably took comfort with these people and their plans to eradicate the virus. So unsurprisingly, not long after meeting them, she joined their ranks. Immediately she went to work, putting her previous experience as a chemical engineer to use. she started upgrading their weapons and training them in the basics of military combat. The cleaners quickly accepted her guidance, and had already begun talking about her as a potential successor to Joe Ferro one day.
You know, I've been thinking. I don't like the sound of that. With Viv having our backs like this, and her reworking our entire refinery process, do we still need Joe?
Don't fucking say that.
No, I know. He started the whole movement and he's taking care of us. But ever since Vivian came on, I feel like Joe's doing less. And she's the one actually steering the ship.
She's an asset, yeah. But there's no question she also answers to Joe. We all do, so shut your fucking mouth and fall in line.
Oh, of course. I didn't mean nothing by it. But you know, Joe's not gonna be around forever. He will need someone to fill his shoes. The way I see it, Conley's the best choice.
Right. Obviously. But not another bad word about Joe, or I'll throw you into the fire.
Months pass. The activation of the second wave of division agents meant the cleaners were pushed right back, which eventually provoked Joe Ferro himself to get involved in trying to put a stop to the invading government forces, but he was quickly overwhelmed by the agents. Upon Ferro's death, Conley took over as his successor and quickly regrouped her scattered forces. From there, she began the restructure and reorganization of them into a group of individuals that would eventually become even deadlier than before. Because of the division, the cleaners had taken a heavy hit. Along with killing their leader, the one who'd started it all, their resources and fuel had taken a hit and were running incredibly low. But Conley had foreseen this coming, and had already scouted ahead to find the ideal solution to their problems.
We need more fuel. At this rate, we're gonna run out in a few weeks.
We've been draining every deposit in Midtown. We were going to use it all eventually.
In Midtown, yes. We're gonna have to migrate.
And abandon everything we've built?
There's a stranded oil tanker on the Lower East Side. It crashed into 2 bridges during the hurricane.
With oil in it?
Enough to last at least 8 months. A year if we're smart.
That's unbelievable.
Went down there myself. The crew's still on board, but we can take care of that. No one else has claimed it yet. Should be a cakewalk. Put a strike team together, we'll head down there tonight and take care of the crew. Once the site's secured, I'll give a green light for backup. Then we'll have a refinery up and running in a few days.
Yes, ma'am.
Conley made the call to relocate the cleaners' operation to southern Manhattan. There they could set up shop and begin rebuilding their ranks. Conley set the task of taking over the ship and setting it up as a refinery in order to feed the heavy need of fuel for the upcoming battles. Conley's successors soon caught up with her. Someone she hadn't seen since the JTF first pulled out of the quarantine zone came knocking.
Some friends you've made.
Keener, what are you doing here?
Checking in on you. You seem to be doing okay.
More than okay. These guys have their priorities straight. This shit isn't going to be sorted out unless we take full measures.
Well, they're very principled and uncompromising, I'll give you that.
What do you want, Keener?
Look, you need to think bigger. The cleaners aren't going to solve this on their own. You need help. Leverage.
And that would be you?
And some friends. I'm putting together something special. We are going to save this city no matter the cost. Free it from disease and corruption. Take down the JTF and the division for good.
And where do we fit into that?
Well, for starters, are you familiar with a man named Vitaly Chernenko?
Rogue agent Aaron Keener came to Conley offering a partnership. While hesitant to work with Keener, her blind rage towards the dollar flu and the promise of information on the location of one of the people who were responsible for it, Vitaly Chernenko, was enough to convince her to join his side. Keener would later request that Conley bring on fellow rogue agent JAVIER KAJIKA, but she wasn't interested. She had heard of KAJIKA and what he'd been up to, and didn't want the cleaners to be a part of it. But Keener told her of his mission, and that KAJIKA could assist in removing the JTF, who at this stage were the only thing standing between the cleaners and their goal. Conley reluctantly agreed. Keener provided Conley with the details of where Chernenko was being held. He informed her that the LMB had been holding him, and had handed him over to the Black Tusk after joining their ranks. Conley ordered the cleaners to assault the Black Tusk on Coney Island. Taken by surprise and heavily outnumbered, the Black Tusk were quickly eliminated. However, unknown to the cleaners, the SHD had also found out about Chernenko's location, and while the cleaners and Black Tusk were preoccupied with fighting each other, they quickly moved in and extracted the Russian scientist. While rogue agents Parnell, DRAGOV, and KAJIKA cleared out the JTF guards, Conley was sent by Keener to set up his new weaponized virus charges in certain areas of City Hall. The damage was extensive. Division agents from Washington, D.C. arrived in New York to investigate the attack. Once there, they quickly found that Conley and the other rogue agents were responsible for the attack, and that they were operating under Aaron Keener's guidance. Local peacekeepers were able to provide intel on Conley's whereabouts, and from there the agents were able to locate the cleaners, who were assaulting an apartment building, with Conley being present. However, before the agents could tear through the cleaners, Conley had escaped. Through intel found within the building, the agents were able to pinpoint where Conley had been residing. She was holding out in an abandoned cargo ship on the shore of South Manhattan. The agents assaulted the cargo ship head-on and were met by a large group of cleaners. Battling floor by floor, the agents eventually made their way to the top deck, and after flushing her out by reversing the gas pipes, they faced her head-on. After a short encounter, the agents managed to take her down. But Conley had one last surprise. As she dropped to the ground screaming, the set of explosives she had strapped to her body detonated. With nothing left for Conley but his smartwatch, the agents collected the watch, and on their return to Haven, passed it over to Fei Lau, who would use it to help locate Aaron Keener. Over the 4 rogue agents featured in Warlords of New York, we can see that Keener was able to manipulate, threaten, and bribe these originally unwilling rogue agents into doing his bidding. But as I've been hinting at through these last few videos, there seems to be a huge variation in criteria that has led these agents to flag as rogue on the Isaac network in the first place. Are we still looking at Isaac as being the best indication of what's rogue? I hadn't planned on making this video for a while because we're still missing a good number of collectibles. I think I still have 3 more to collect. But from the last video there were a number of you that had been waiting on this one, so I went ahead and completed what I could. It may be the fact that I need to release an update when these are found, depending on what comes up. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter where my lovely community, and I use that term very loosely, like to hurl abuse at me on the daily. I'm sure they love me really. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching this, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers!